And keep it going for Jamie. Jamie Brickhouse, come on up.
I met my first boyfriend in first grade. Eric Munson was his name. We met during PE class, the way most budding homosexuals meet. Far on the sidelines of the playing field. He liked my copper red hair. I liked his aqua blue eyes. It was 1974, and we were both in Mrs. Chambers' class in little old Beaumont, Texas. Now, while the other boys played a savage game of dodgeball, Eric and I took refuge in each other, and we discussed our very favorite episodes of Bewitched. You may recall that Bewitched was that 1960s sitcom about a beautiful blonde witch, Samantha, married to a mortal Darren, and her meddlesome mother, kind of a drag queen, Endora. Now, pretty soon, Eric and I were playing Bewitched every day. But in our version, Darren didn't exist. I played Samantha. Eric was so homosexually advanced, he played Endora. He could perfectly mimic her drag queen gestures as he cast spells with a tornado of whirling arms and sucked-in cheeks and arched eyebrows. Vroom! Eric could always outdo me on the Sissy Fabulous scale. In the evenings, we'd have long phone conversations. I'd cradle the receiver between my ear and shoulder and lethargically twirl the long, squiggly cord like a jump rope. I always ended the conversations the same way. Well, let me let you go. Which is how my mother ended her phone conversations when it was really she who wanted to be let go. It's the Southern way of dropping someone. Now, Mrs. Chambers was equally enamored of me and my red hair as Eric was, and my feelings for her were mutual. She had a big personality, bubble of brunette hair, bright makeup that was punctuated by frosted pink lips. She was like a movie star to me. So I often stayed after school to be her special little helper. And on one of those after-school afternoons, she called me over to her desk. "Jamie, I want to have a little talk with you." I loved little talks with big people. I ran over to her desk and looked up at her. "Jamie, do you know what a sissy is?" My eyes zeroed in on her frosted pink lips as she said, "Sissy." "I think so." I don't know if I knew or if I intuitively knew, but I felt like I was in trouble. "Well, Eric might be one. And the other boys might think you're one too if you hang around him too much. Maybe you should take a little break from him for a while." Then she winked and ruffled my red hair. "Just something to think about." I don't know how much I thought about it, but after that conversation, every time Eric came over to play, I kept making up excuses why I couldn't. I remember the last time I saw him. He was standing on my front porch after I told yet another lie of why I couldn't come out and play. He didn't protest. He just said, "Okay." His aqua blue eyes were moist. To break the awkward moment, I said the only thing I could think of to say. "Well, let me let you go." He got on his bike and pedaled away. When I hit junior high, I had an epiphany. Mrs. Chambers was right. Eric was a sissy. And you know what? So am I. I got on my bike and I rode across town to his house. I rang the doorbell. A strange man answered. "Is Eric home? Eric Munson?" "Who?" "Oh, the Munsons. No, they moved to Oklahoma years ago." I was too late. I grew up and I left that small town in Texas for the bright lights of New York City to lead my own sissy fabulous life, thank you. Which for me meant a lot of alcohol and drugs. So much so that the fabulous turned to depression, and I bottomed out on a suicide attempt. And when I finally got sober, I thought about Eric a lot. I'd never forgotten him. And I kind of imagined that he maybe had his own problems with alcohol and drugs. And I also envisioned him channeling his talent for mimicking Endora into a fabulous drag queen career. I could see him backstage doing lines of coke and downing too many cocktails before planting size 13-inch high heels on the stage and perfectly lip-syncing to Cher's "If I Could Turn Back Time." And a few years ago, I tried to reach him. I tried to find him on Facebook. And I sent a message to an Eric Munson who I thought was a match. He never answered me. And then I reconnected with another classmate from Mrs. Chambers who had kept in touch with Eric. Turns out we had a lot in common. Like me, he had had his problems with alcohol and drugs. Unlike me, he never made it far from small towns in Texas and Oklahoma. Like me, he'd attempted suicide. But Eric outdid me. He succeeded. Why did I make it and not him? And unlike me, he would never find the refuge of the gift of sobriety. And I would never have the chance to tell him I'm sorry for the last words I said to him so long ago. Well, let me let you go. Thank you.